Welcome back, everyone. And today I've got a very, very exciting episode lined up for you because I have Eleana Alexandrou here with us, who is the Artistic Director of Limassol 2030. She's here to tell us all about this very, very exciting initiative and lots going on here that's very exciting for our city. So welcome, Eleana.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Let's delve and jump straight in to what is Limassol 2030. Let's tell everyone, those who don't know.
So Limassol 2030 is an organization that was founded late 2022 for bidding to become European Capital of Culture in 2030. It's a competition that happens nationally. So a few municipalities entered this competition a while back, and this was the organization that was founded for Limassol. The full name is Limassol 2030 European Capital of Culture Candidate City.
Amazing.
And if a city wins, the candidate city goes away.
Okay, so yeah, you've said a few municipalities within Cyprus, but let's talk about the wider thing, because that's only a few municipalities within our little island that are trying to get this title. But it's a much wider, wider initiative. Can I call it that?
Yeah,
than that? So,
you can
I mean,
call
this
it
is
that.
European. So within each country, there could be 10 different cities applying or more.
Yes, depending of course on the scale of a country. But every year there is 2 or 3 European capitals of culture in Europe. It's like a rotation of cities. And every year there is national competitions. One in the older Europe, let's say, the first countries that entered the European Union, one country out of them is in the rotation. Then you have one country from the second Europe, let's say. And then every few years, not every year, there is a city that will come out of the countries that are trying to enter the European Union or are in the
peripheral.
economic zone of European Union. Like there is let's say a group of countries that have the chance to bid every few years. So for 2030, there is one from Belgium, so that's older Europe, one from Cyprus, New Europe, and then there will be a third one in 2030, which is and now the shortlisted cities from that part is Nikšić from Montenegro, and Lviv from Ukraine. So we know that it will be one of those two as the third city.
And so at the moment we're down. How many initially?
In Cyprus there were 5,
but in Europe, how many initially entered this bid? So
the competition. Every year it's a national competition, so we're not competing with Belgium or any other place. It's like there will be a city from Cyprus in 2030.
Oh, yes.
There will be a city from Belgium. So the competition happens on a national level. In Belgium, there were 6 cities that were bidding in the first round, in Cyprus 2. And then we don't know how many cities bid from the outer region. We just found out who passed. In the second round. And in Belgium, there are now 3 shortlisted cities for the final round. 2 in Cyprus.
Out of the 4.
Out of the 5. And the 2 in the outside the EU.
Okay. And then the next step, what then happens? And what about the other countries? What about Italy and France? And
so, for example, now in 2025, the European capitals of culture are 2. One of them is Nova Gorica from Slovenia, and the other one is Chemnitz from Germany. Next year, in 2026, you have other cities from other places. For example, you have Oulu from Finland. In 2029, which is the year before us, we have Kiruna from Sweden and Lublin from Poland. So the competition goes a few years back.
So when will we know?
End of this year.
End of this year. So imagine, so basically the bidding starts 7 or 8
years before.
And then the results come out
5 years before. Yes, because then you can start your program.
Yeah.
And then the city can also start implementing or going for bigger plans like infrastructure changes or new, let's say, there could be new cultural infrastructure or other things outside culture that the city wants to do to host the title as well. If you remember in Paphos, which was the first capital of culture in Europe, in Cyprus, they made a huge change in the city center. The title creates this, let's say, momentum to do things faster in a city because you want to do it well. So the state kind of speeds up and all that.
And you get funding when you win? What happens?
Not from Europe per se. Let's say the European Capital of Culture Initiative has an award. It's called the Melina Mercouri Prize because Melina Mercouri, along with Jacques Lang, the French culture minister back then, it was them two that initiated this European institution because they had this idea that the European Union is not just about money and legal matters. It should be about culture as well, which is what makes us in a way. And the first capital of culture was Athens, and the second one was Paris. So in the past, it was like one was going after the other. But the initiative grew really, really big, and it became a competitive thing as well. And it grew financially as well. So now it's one of the largest, if not the largest, cultural initiative in Europe that brings together also the different places and the different countries.
Amazing. And so why is it so important? Like, why do we want to win it? I mean, obviously, okay, we do, but let's say why should we? What what will it bring to the city?
A few things. One is that, let's say, every city that becomes a European capital of culture has this opportunity to do things that maybe wouldn't have done before, or maybe it would take many, many years to do. There is a momentum that builds up that creates this chance to do things, to do more things faster. And this is good because then you can have a better progress, not just within culture, because it also happens within culture if we think of the culture industry, but also for the city itself. There is a movement of activity, of collaborations, of people traveling to or from the city that puts the city in the spotlight, let's say, for a whole year, also the years before, and an exchange of let's say, knowledge and interactions and collaborations within different European places, cities, countries, and so on, but also our neighboring countries. So there is an activity that puts the city that wins in the center of, which is beneficial financially, socially, culturally. It's a huge boost.
And it's a great marketing tool,
Yeah,
isn't
of
it? I mean, it's
course,
a
of
big thing to
course.
say, we are
And the
the
brand
cultural
also of the
capital.
European capital culture has become quite significant also. Yeah.
Amazing. So what are the objectives, the aims, the initiatives that have to go into winning?
So
or even apply?
there is a few things that you have to do. And first of all, the competition has 6 criteria. And this is how each candidacy is judged upon. They are the long-term strategy of the city through culture. So this is something that you have to, it's a very, let's say, technical thing. And then you have the European dimension, which is one of the most important criteria of the competition. And it's the idea of what it means to be European, but also how to practice being European. So it's the idea, it's the philosophy and the values and the ideologies, but also really to create practical exchanges and collaboration and networks. And then you have the artistic and cultural program, which is another important part of how the competition is judged. And then you have 3 more that have to do with your reach and your capacity, One of them is outreach. It has to do with how you engage different populations of a place. Management and finances. It shows the commitment of the city and actually how it has thought of the ways it will be implemented if you win. For example, having an independent organization already in place, like Limassol2030, is a crucial part. That then they have more trust. That is not through the municipal machine, let's say. So then you know that things will move faster, for example. And the last one is the capacity to deliver. That's how it's called, and it literally has to do with the infrastructure of the city. How many people can the city host, for example? Like we have to put numbers of hotel beds and public transport
Lots of data.
information, like lots of data like that. So these criteria are there, and you submit a bid book in the first phase. You submit a second bid book if you are shortlisted, that is a bit bigger. And there is a presentation in front of the jury, which is evaluating the competition, long Q&A sessions. And in the second round, which is what we're doing now, there will be a visit from the jury in the city.
How many are in the jury?
12 people.
12 people. And how many people from our side are?
Two.
Two.
Yes. So
Okay.
10 people come from Europe, different experts of the competition. Also, the European Commission appoints a jury member. There are some bodies of Europe that appoint some members, and then the rest come from people that are experts of the capital of culture. And let's say the country that hosts the competition appoints two people as well.
So who funds all of that? Where's the funding coming from?
So from the city, let's say.
Okay.
So our bidding process is funded primarily from the city.
And the jurors and all of the
So
competition side, where's
there
that?
is a European capital of culture, let's say,
pot.
pot within the European Union. That's how that process is funded, and it's not like a huge pot because the proceedings of the competition are quite simple.
Yeah.
And you asked me earlier, if we win, where will the money come from?
Yeah.
Whoever decides to bid for the title essentially decides to invest in culture. The country, for example, Cyprus, participating in the competition, already commits to investing in culture. A big part of the funding comes from the state. Then the city that is bidding for the title also gives a big part of that funding. And then the rest, the organization will source from private funding or from European programs. But a lot of the money will come from public funding. And it's, let's say, the initiative encourages countries and cities to raise their budgets of culture, which this is how it works. And it's actually a way to build more capacity of culture within the whole of Europe. Yeah.
Really interesting. So how can the local community and local businesses get involved?
So, well, there's a lot of ways.
Now the list comes out. Actually, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. Throughout our process, it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years. When did we last meet? I think it was like a year and a half ago or something.
Yeah, I can't even think. Time flies.
Yes.
I think when we first met, it was, a good year and a half ago.
Yeah. We started a long process of speaking to different people of the city, doing consultations, focus groups, discussions, public events to get people close, to share what is happening, to explain what it means to bid for the title. And then we started collecting impressions of the city, like what it means to be in Limassol today, how it feels to be, let's say, to live in this city, whether recently or for a long time, and how we imagine our city in the future. Like we were collecting these views, like what would we want for our city for the future? Where do we see it going? or where do we see it going that we need to like shift? Because it's not just about celebrating culture, it's also the competition asks why you need the title, not why you deserve the title. So you need to share
Interesting.
what you identify in a place in our city, for example, that needs work on, or that needs to be better than now, that needs to, I don't know, overcome a challenge, for example. So this is the kind of conversations we've been having, and this is how a lot of people participated already in the process. And we do this physically or digitally, like we have different questionnaires, we have different sessions and all that. And all that information the last 2 years went into our first bid book. Essentially, it was also, let's say, the board of the organization, let's say, vision, but it was also my desire to do a process where what people share goes into our bid book. So the priorities of our bid book were shaped by the things that kept being articulated during the process. Now that's one part. And the other part, you have a network of support, let's say, for the title. So different business people, small or larger scale, or people that come from different sectors offered their help or their money. So we also fundraised some extra funds during these 2 years. And yeah, it's this idea of how can we make it happen? Let's say I can do this. Can I offer it, for example? And then we usually say yes. Whatever you can offer, you bring it in. Your thoughts, your support. You can offer a service, like whatever it is, comes very handy. And let's say if by the end of this year we actually manage to get this title, this process acts as a preparation. The more we are involved now, the more we are ready to start implementing and getting work done if we win.
Yeah.
Then,
So what do you think we'll do if we win?
Oh, a lot of things. um, this there are a couple of things that were articulated stronger than others, let's say, and it's come down to the why we're bidding for the title. One of them is that I might have said this the last time we met, but it was only the first times we were talking about it. That, let's say, Limassol is changing super fast the last few years, maybe the last 7 years, really, really fast. This huge boost that goes on. But the experience from different communities is it's radically different, let's say. For some people, it goes really well. And for some people, it goes really, really difficult. And this is, let's say, at the center of what we talk about. How can a city develop, but develop well? How can Limassol become better for more people, not just for, let's say, people that have more capacity? And the younger generations are the ones that are challenged more than anyone else. Like you have lots of young people that still live with their parents because they cannot get their own place, or that move out of the city to another place in Cyprus or even abroad. So then you have lots of young people that see their future and they're wondering if they will still be here. That's not a nice thing to think about. Like all the young people will slowly like disappear from Limassol, who's going to be left here. So yeah, it's this really strong dilemmas that the more you go down in age, the more they become more intense. So how can we keep growing and developing as a city, but take people with us?
Well, there are a lot of that, of course, is just because people are eager to explore the world. The world is their oyster. They want to travel. Some of the jobs they're interested in don't exist here or are here, but maybe not in the capacity that they are abroad. So it's definitely quite fun to watch Limassol evolve because the potential that we have is huge.
Exactly. There is a lot of potential, and sometimes you feel that you lose some of it because the conditions to bloom here are not here yet. Like you have a lot
Well, they're
of like,
coming, depending on the industry.
yeah, like you have
Mm.
really like, I don't know, uh, not just educated, but really very intelligent people that cannot do their work here because it's just not here yet. And then you have a lot of
With
people,
some
yeah,
fields, but then there's so many that are. I mean, the tech, the gaming,
yeah,
the forex. I mean, it's just huge what's happening. Obviously, there's tourism and hospitality. I mean, there's a lot of industries that have come. Medical has got quite
yeah,
far.
yeah.
Um,
So then
yeah,
my job
finance.
here is how to make culture
Yeah,
an equally strong player
yeah,
within these very strong players of the city.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So let's talk about sustainability, one of my favorite topics. Um, how can sustainability and inclusivity be utilized in urban development? And what are we doing, or you guys doing, as Limassol 2030 to incorporate these aspects?
So from the point of culture, you look at how culture operates, and
Mm-hmm.
then you see how can you make that more sustainable. One has to do with the environmental aspect of sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
like the impact of culture on the environment. And this has the discussions that can come up there are, for example, how are big events happening in the city? What is the waste that is produced out of such events? For example, if we take Carnival, what happens during Carnival in our city? Like, how are we? Um, if I think of waste during Carnival, that's like a huge aspect. And then,
Although I'll give Limassol, my goodness, so much credit here. I am always so impressed by how horrifically dirty but colourful the city is during
it's
Carnival,
true,
how much confetti is thrown, and the spray cans are dropped, and everything is just a mess. And literally within 2 hours, it's all clean. It's
it's
amazing
it's
how
true.
it just goes to show that when there's planning, how well we can
It's
utilize our
true, but then
forces.
where does that
Where
waste
does it
go?
go? Yeah.
So it's the point is not to
And what waste is
produce,
it?
yes,
Like
not
one
to
thing, the paper
produce, yeah,
confetti, and another thing is all those
yeah,
cans.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so one is that in kind of impact of large
Mm.
scale events. Then you have also, let's say, a large scale event, how it places itself in terms of the sound it
Mm-hmm.
produces. You start to think of the environment in a more holistic aspects,
Yeah.
like what sound is produced and where is that
Mm-hmm.
sound produced and how does it damage the environment beyond
Mm-hmm.
the humans, for
Mm-hmm.
example. And then you have the aspect of culture when it moves from one place to another.
Mm-hmm.
Cyprus is an island. We don't have many different ways of going. It's not like being in the Netherlands and then getting on a train that is probably an electric train and going to Belgium and doing a performance, or on the other
Mm.
side to Germany. We fly. So how can we make that, even as our only option? How can we make that more friendly? Can we maybe arrange, I don't know, touring festivals instead of one company
Mm.
after the other trying to get abroad, and then we create damage one time, for example? Like, how can we find ways to minimize the impact?
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned like this booming tech industry. How can we use technology to create connections beyond touring, actually getting there? Can we create different spaces of
Mm-hmm.
presentation and exchanges and performances, for example?
Mm.
So there
Although
is
I
a
do
lot of
think
things to
with
explore.
sustainability, there is a lot of emphasis on, I think people love talking about the airline industry and travel. But if you look at the data and look at that globally, yes, of course that has an impact, but it's relatively little.
Yeah,
It's a tiny percentage compared to
other things that are going
other
on. Yeah,
things, let alone animal agriculture and so much else that's going
yeah,
on. So really, there has to be a focus on that as well, and on
yeah,
even
yeah. I
small
don't.
things that we do every day.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
culture is gonna save the environment, even
not at all,
if
but it
it
can
becomes
definitely help
radically. Yeah,
educate people,
yes,
and
for
it can
sure,
help, transform
for sure.
our daily living.
And also in in our city there is another thing that goes on. You might have already heard about it. The 2030 mission cities. It's another European initiative actually. 100 cities were selected around Europe with the target to become climate neutral by 2030. And these 100 cities after 2030, if they have succeeded in their goals also, will become the prototypes for the rest of the cities of Europe to reach climate neutrality. It's one of the goals of Europe in terms of tackling the climate change. And Limassol is that. So there is another
parallel
2030 mission, and that's called Limassol2030
as well.
Limassol2030 net zero mission. So we're called Lemesos2030. It's a way also to separate the two.
Separate, because I did ask about that. Yeah, why did you go with the Greek version of our name and not the English? Yeah,
I think that was also one of the reasons. But so that goes on, and we have a connection with that initiative as well, like how to use the place of culture to have this dissemination and to educate and to bring more awareness of how we also, I don't know, personally behave in cultural events, like keep our garbage and actually put them in a bin, for example, and not throw them
on the floor.
Or take our water bottles instead of buying plastic water bottles, for example, or simple things like that.
Simple things, but
are
they can
also
make
part of the process.
big impact. So, what role does art and music and even food play, and so much more play in the cultural vision of 2030?
I mean, they're at the core. I think that.
Or is there one thing that really stands out?
The idea
as the main initiative.
The idea is to be more connected to art and culture as an expression, but also as an experience. To make it, let's say, a habit that you can meet art, that you can be with culture easier, let's say, because now, apart from like a few public events that might take place and they're outside, you really have to look for it. You have to see what is going on, book a ticket, get there. Like it's not very obvious, let's say, unless it's this huge event that happens in the city and you bump into it or something. So the idea is to make art more visible and more integrated into our daily life and our habits, and not just in the center also, because you need to go, usually you have to go in the center of the city to see stuff. What if it's over here, like maybe there is a neighborhood and there are things going on, like either a public event or there are things happening in smaller venues around different spaces of the city. Then
definitely, and the hotels have so much going on, and there's Monte Caputo that's just here, and there's on the other side the golf course is opening up. There's so much going on around, and we're such a long, thin city, not a circular one. So things are dotted, I think, constantly, and different halls are appearing in different spaces. Yeah. But we even have here in Aistikonas, in the ancient ruins, once a year there'll be a performance with a Greek artist. In Korean, there's other things. So that, I think there is a lot. But I agree, sometimes you really have to look for, I don't know, a theatrical performance or an art show going on. But on the other hand, I think if we just open our eyes a little bit, there's so much culture around that maybe we don't appreciate on a daily basis.
It's true. Yeah. I think it's also about shedding light on things, because you really have to look for things. A lot of times during our meetings all these months, I would ask people like, what was the last thing you remember going to, or what was the last thing that happened, even if you didn't manage to go to. And people have a hard time remembering, even though there's so much going on.
There's
it's
so
almost
much
like
going
it's
on.
very fragmented, let's say.
And I think a little bit in the Cypriot culture, traditionally we weren't brought up like that, weren't raised like that. I think it's been a lot of the influence of foreign
yeah,
people coming to live in the city that have, made the ballet performances, the more singers that aren't just the Greek singers,
yeah,
classical music concerts, some plays. We've even got shows of maybe live plays happening in the UK and then they're filmed here.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
think people, apart from maybe the odd art exhibition or going to see a Greek singer, it wasn't really something that people grew up expecting.
yeah,
And now I think it's nice that people have the taste of it and then slowly are putting it into their
yeah,
schedule. I will look out for that. I will
yeah.
go. I will appreciate that.
But you said that there is another side that I also find very interesting. Uh, Lemesos has, I think, maybe some of the biggest numbers in amateur groups doing all
Mm,
kinds of things, like
yeah,
choirs and playing instruments or
it's
dancing.
amazing. We have a lot that comes to the hotel, maybe at Christmas or throughout the
So
year, and we love it.
it's a huge number of people
Yeah,
that practice
art and
art.
culture and music.
Not so many that might attend it on a regular
Mm,
basis, but it's like it's a big
yeah,
contrast. So I think there's something also about how we engage or let's say talk about culture, but also do things together.
mm,
Maybe it's not about, let's say, just trying to increase the audience numbers in different events, but just to do more things where we can do things together,
yeah,
because obviously we prefer to go and dance than actually go and see a dance, for example.
mm.
And that's also interesting
It's
to
quite
work with.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really good point. So I ask everybody this: what's your favorite quote?
Oh. So yeah, I don't remember it exactly, but I've been reading a lot of Gabor Mate in the
Oh,
last few
I love
months. I
him.
love
Yeah,
him.
he's
It's
amazing.
yeah, and he's so captivating to
Yeah,
also hear
really. And
and
to
see.
watch and the way
Yeah,
he talks and he pauses and reflects and
yeah,
such a wise
yeah,
man. Really, I wish there were more people in the
yeah.
world like him.
And he he I was hearing this podcast, and then it made me start reading some of his books.
Mm,
And there is something that he says that, um, let's say, uh, the idea of how we feel about the world and how is it our responsibility to change the world. It's not about the world, it's about how we place ourselves in the world and taking care of
mm,
our own drive in
mm-hmm,
order to feel feel useful
mm,
and confident.
mm.
So there's something, I don't remember the
The
quote
words,
exactly, the
yeah,
paragraph, but yeah, there are some like really hitting the nail
yeah,
remarks that he makes that are
amazing
super
always.
super
Yeah, so
at the
profound.
core. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I appreciate Gabor Mate recently.
absolutely, absolutely. He's amazing. Okay, the last
Oh
question.
wow!
I don't know what it is. So this is the team at St. Raphael get to write a question,
So I
put
choose
it
one.
in, you choose whatever you want. Put
Is
it in
it
this
one or
crystal,
two?
I
What's
don't know, I think
one?
that's one.
Should I
It's
open
crystal
it?
ball. Yes, please do. See what you are.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be? I think
Ah.
somebody answered this as well.
Or they put their no name, maybe.
Ah, it's the name of the
Their
person
name.
that asked the
Oh,
question.
that's our GM, Vassos. So Vassos Gilanis asked this. I love it.
Mm,
Mm.
I think I would have dinner with Vasilis Michailidis,
Oh,
our poet.
really?
Yes, you meet him through a couple of his poems that you learn at school, but then just discovering more of his story made me admire him even more.
Mm.
He wrote one of the first poems ever about peace and narrated it in The Hague in a peace convention. And I think there is something very, very brave about Vasilis Michailidis, but also very critical. He had this balance of criticality and really articulating the idea of peace in his poems that I the more I understand, the more I appreciate. So yeah, I would probably choose to
I
have
love
dinner with him.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, someone that you'd immediately think,
No,
and
yeah, I would probably
someone so
answer
important.
differently a few
Yeah,
months ago. Yeah, but
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, nice. Eliana, thank you so much. I
Thank
wish
you,
you
Farah,
all
for
the
hosting
best.
us.
Not just you, but for all of us.
Yeah.
We all want to win this, and we'll do whatever it takes. Listeners, please do get in touch with
Yes.
Eliana. Find them on social media. Get in touch. Contact them and see how you can help support. And let's win this one. We've got this.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Εχουμέντο.
Ναι,
Yes.
ακριβώς. Thank you so much, my
Thank
dear.
you,
Thank
Farah.
you. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button because it helps us more than you may realize. If you are planning on coming to visit us at St. Raphael Resort and Marina, feel free to email our reservations team quoting Hotel Talk and receive an exclusive offer just for you. We look forward to seeing you soon, hearing your feedback about our show, and producing many, many more interesting episodes just for you, our listener, and our valued guest in mind. Thank you so much, and take care.